milestone, which is our contract with the Amalgamated Transit Union expires. You will note the same frustration that I note, which is that the existing contracts have been in place for 4 months, according to my days, 18 days. So it took us quite a long time to get that 3-year contract in place. Now, most of the 3 years have passed, as you all know, before we were able to get an arbitrator's decision on the contract. My hope is that that duration can be shortened dramatically this time, and I hope that's the case. This Friday, the ATU and TRIMET are scheduled to begin negotiations and discuss how those negotiations shall progress. We're also prepared on the first day to actually exchange proposals with the ATU. That will be up to the ATU in terms of the timing of those actual steps, but we are ready to go is the message to you right now. In my view, this contract really needs to meet 3 major tests. It needs to be fair to our riders. We've had enough of service cuts and fare increases above the level of the cost of living. It needs to be fair to our employees. This is not a race to the bottom in terms of benefits and costs and wages. But we do need to be in line with our peer agencies and other government agencies in this realm. And we need to be fair to the taxpayers who invest in the service and really want to see it managed in a very efficient business and that their dollars are used wisely. So I would also note that all of our proposals, while we're not able to make them public until we exchange them with the ATU, really follow the guidance we received from the board. And this goes back to May of 2010, when you adopted a policy that really directed us to bring, I quote, bring TRIMET's healthcare and post-employment benefits in line with the sustainable forecast of future TRIMET revenues. So that continues to be our focus direction in terms of these negotiations. So the other point I make about the timeline of this is that we have sent, as I've informed you in the past, we've sent notice to the ATU that upon the expiration of the contract, there will be a freeze in the cost of living raise and also increased costs of healthcare premiums over and above what are currently in place will be accruing to the employees. And so I want that short time of uncertainty that affects the employees to be as short as possible. And so, again, those efforts are in line with the recent ELD case that we saw that was litigated through the last contract. And again, the best approach for all of us, we know, is to negotiate a good outcome, and we pledge our very best faith to do that. Randy Stedman, as you know, will lead our efforts in that regard, starting this Friday.
My name is John Charles, President of Cascade Policy Institute, a nonprofit policy research entity. And I'm not usually in the habit of defending public employee unions, but I am going to do that today to some degree, because I think the storyline that has emerged and is being told repeatedly from TRIMET on the current budget situation, the storyline namely is that the current problem wouldn't exist if the ATU contract had been modified and made more reasonable over the past 15 years, is inaccurate and not particularly helpful. First, it's inaccurate because the ATU contract is only half the problem. Capital construction is the other half, and you or anyone from TRIMET rarely talks about that in public. And second, you don't really have much control over the contract. The horses are long out of the barn. Your predecessors agreed to unsustainable terms over the last 20 years. You're sitting waiting around for a May 15th arbitration hearing. You have no leverage. So it comes across as whining to talk about that all the time. The one handout that's been passed around is from your 20-year forecast, senior lien debt, which is obviously rising. It's a very uncomfortable trend. And it's a function of rail construction cost. Who has control over that? All 7 of you. Exclusive control over that going forward in the future. It's a senior lien debt. That's what senior liens are placed on your future revenues by Wall Street bondholders when you sell payroll tax bonds. And they don't care about your little problem here in Portland. They don't care if your service drops to 0. When payroll tax money comes in, they're going to get paid. That's all they care about. And so you look at the debt for this year, it's about $17 million. Just conveniently, that's about the problem you're facing next year. It jumps to $30 million next year. Money you're not going to get. Imagine if your predecessors hadn't piled up this debt that you're inheriting. Imagine how much service expansion you can have right now. So, I guess my point here, and if you haven't looked at pages 33 to 36 of your audit carefully where this is discussed, all of the payroll tax debt, you should. So next year, unless you've advanced it and I didn't know about it, next year, in the next 3 years, you're going to sell bonds totaling $60 million for the Milwaukee project. So in debt service terms, that's probably over $100 million that'll be onto this. My point is, to wrap it up, is you've asked the ATU to do something very unnatural, which is to get back, make some concessions. You have total control over something. When are you going to make the hard decision to deal with that issue? Because if you don't model that leadership, then the 2 of you are going to be stuck in some bizarre mutual suicide pact while the whole agency goes down the drain. So I strongly suggest that you have a work session in the future to study more the issue of capital construction and debt service, and consider pulling the plug entirely on your rail construction program, including the $60 million that you are scheduled to sell in the next 3 years, because you have 7 votes that control that decision. Thanks.
Good job.